I'm going to start with a quick and easy one, and that is curved waistbands. If you're a bit of a slender one like I am, well, chances are the waist is narrow. But also, ladies, sometimes, not always, but tend to have a little bit more of an hourglass shape, so bigger hips and then in a little bit by the waist. Well, if we sew a straight waistband on our pants, it's going to look like this, and well, wouldn't it look much better if it was something like that? And the key to getting that tapered waistband is, well, a curved waistband. Yes, I do also have tips for the shapely folks coming up. The best way to understand how this works is to think of it as a cone. And we have this nice taper on the sides here, and we're essentially just taking a slice of that to make our waistband. But if we then go ahead and open up this 3D cone and make it a flat object, well, you see how we get that curvature happening? That is why a curved waistband gives us a nice taper. The greater the curve, the more it will taper. So you decide what fits your body best. So that's the why. Now let's go ahead and take a straight waistband and give it a curve. I take my waistband and I divide it into 10 equal parts. I then go ahead and trim along each one of these lines right up until the edge, maybe a millimeter or two away. I then proceed to overlap these panels on top of each other, like so. I go ahead and tape that down and then repeat with the next one, making sure to do it the same amount. Once again, tape that down, and boom, I have got myself a nicely curved waistband. But if I want to take it one step further, of course, I can go ahead and trace this off and then just smooth out these lines to be nice, perfect curves. My name is Cornelius Quiring. That's the logo. That's the word mark. And Cornelius.ooh is the website. Also, what do you think? I think it's time we give my little rooster there a hat of his own, huh? Do you have a little bit of a tum-tum? Like, do you find that your pants in the front here by the waistband can sometimes be a little bit uncomfortable? It sort of... The best word I can think of is in plotisch, schniert. And it means to rub, pull, and be tight. It specifically refers to clothes. And not chafing. Chafing is too intense. It's less than that, but it's... schniert. Do your pants schniert? Don't need it backsen schnieren. And if that's the case, then we don't have to live this way. It can be adjusted. On the front leg panel, where the zipper goes, we're just going to bring that line forward as we make our way to the top. But we don't want to make that a straight line across because that's going to create a bit of an odd point when we sew it together and create a divot that we don't want. So we're going to use the old 90-degree rule, which I've preached about countless times. Check some of my older videos if that's of interest. But we're going to use a 90-degree angle at that top corner there, and then just simply S-curve that back in to match. And I've gone ahead and done a quick little mock-up here, editing corner, if you could overlay that, to show what that looks like, what's possible. As you can see, there's quite a bit of volume now available to make room for our tum-tums. Do you remember those Ernest movies from the 90s? Oh, this young Cornelius. Loved them. Also, Mr. Bean, fantastic. Alan Jackson. Shame they didn't have any influence on me. Tom and Jerry, Shania Twain, Any Man of Mine. Woo! An area that tends to get quite a bit of tension and stretch is around the butt and down and underneath the crotch. And a good way to add some strength in this area is with a flat felled seam. A flat felled seam quite simply means that we fold over a bit of a lip on our one piece of fabric, repeat with the other one, and then we go ahead and just link those two puppies together like so, and then we run a stitch right on the outside here. We do another one a little further in so that we can catch the other side here. And that means we end up having 4 pieces of fabric and 2 stitches holding it together, which makes for a very sturdy seam. You're going to see this quite often on jeans and other more heavy-duty workwear pants. But have you also noticed that that seam underneath the butt there also has ribbing and kind of like bubbling quite often? Well, that's because doing a flat felt seam on a curved pattern piece is a lot trickier. The fabric just ain't gonna lay flat like that, you know? I'm a bit of a pretty boy, you know? There's no dirt underneath these nails, and I also like a bit of a cleaner line for that seam. So what I do is a regular stitch like any other, but then double stitch it for that extra strength. And I like to stagger that second stitch as well so it lands right in the middle of the first one. Because in my mind, it just seems like that makes for a stronger stitch. In fact, I even do a double stitch up to the front by the zipper here and along the sides through the hips because, well, this is where all the action is happening. A common question I get is, Cornelius, how have you learned all this sewing and pattern drafting stuff? And the truth is by checking a whole bunch of different sources. And one of my personal favorites is Skillshare, the sponsor of this video. I'm on a mission to further elevate my pant making skills, and when you know it, Skillshare had the exact course I was looking for. Joe Ondo's Sewing a Pair of Pants for a Perfect Fit. I personally like the way he does a bias binding on the inside seam by the zipper. It just, further elevates it and gives it that touch of class. Skillshare is quite simply the largest online learning community for creatives like you and I, led by industry experts in topics like sewing, pattern drafting, embroidery. There's also a fabric dyeing class that I recently discovered that will be next for me, and so many more others. Skillshare is fantastic if you're looking to elevate your career, learn new skills, discover new hobbies, or perhaps that side hustle is going to become your main hustle. Regardless, it's going to take you to the next level. And best of all, the first 500 people to use my link down in the description will get a 1-month free trial to Skillshare. Win-win! Perhaps nature has blessed you with a big old caboose, and you find your pants are a little tight back there. Let's fix that problem. And editing corn, you're back in the saddle. Give us a back leg panel, please. Thank you. What we can do, quite simply, is just cut a slash about 3/4 of the way down on the curve, straight across. And then using the outside corner, we go ahead and just pivot the top up. We clean up the 2 edges, and voila. We now have more space in the back. But this has its limitations, and I'm guessing you've got thighs to match. Let's do that outside pivot again, but this time, let's do it a second time from the inside of the bottom by the thigh there, and pull out the leg panel a bit. Let's go ahead and clean up the outsides again so that there's a nice smooth straight lines. There we go. Now both of them have a little bit more room. Oh, you've put a few miles on your bike, and yeah, this modification isn't going to be enough. Let's go ahead and add another slash somewhere in the middle of this thigh piece, as much as there is a middle. And then from the outside, once again, we pivot this piece to add even more room. And just like we did the previous times, once again, clean up those points so they're nice and smooth. Aren't you looking smashing in those new pants of yours? Have you ever had a pair of pants where the leg twists while you're wearing them? This is because your pants, most likely, haven't been properly cut out on the grain. What's the grain, you ask? The grain are the yarns that run up and down on the fabric. Think of them as the main structural ones. They're always parallel to the edge here, or the selvage. And then you've got the other ones that weave in between those. And what we want is the panels of our pants to be cut out so that they're nicely aligned with that grain. However, if they're cut at a bit of an angle, and then over time as you're washing and drying these pants, well, it twists and warps a little bit because it's not nice and straight up and down. And hence it goes like this, you know? Another thing that can contribute to this problem is if the tension between your two pieces being sewn together is uneven. Like say you pull on the top piece of fabric more than the bottom one, when you sew that together, there's an unequal tension, and that too can contribute to the warping. Oh, what a picture, cinematography corn. The only reason I can come up with as to why we've put so much effort into getting this shot just so is, well, to share the fact that we have pattern drafting courses available at that URL right there. Have you ever noticed how stingy store-bought pants are with belt loops? Like there's only ever one in the center at the back, and then the next two are all the way on the side of the pants. And so if you're wearing a belt and you happen to sit down or squat or bend over, there's so much tension just pulling on that one in the back there. Look, even I've done it. I mean, I made these pants myself, and well, I did it because, you know, that's how pants are made. It just doesn't have to be this way. These days, I put 2 loops in the back here, and that just helps to distribute the tension of the belt out a little bit more. And then I move the 2 on the sides a little further back here as well. Also, look at this. I got a little hole here. Why, hello there. I just want to show this to point out the fact that I am far from perfect in the things that I make, and looks like I'm going to need to do a little bit of patching. Mistakes are all a part of the process, but no need to stop there. Add as many loops as you want on your pants. I've heard people mention 7, 8, I think someone said 9 once. Do you also get this little divot fold that happens in the bottom corner of your pockets? So what's going on here? And full disclosure, I've been struggling with this one for quite a while with all the pants that I make, but I think I've cracked it. I think I have a solution. I find it to be an issue of imbalance. And by that I mean that there's so many layers of fabric for the front, you know. We've got the leg panel, we've got the actual bag of the pocket itself, and some more pant fabric to cover the bag. But then in the back, we just have one layer of fabric, and it quite simply can't stand up against the bulkiness of the front, and so it crumbles right in this little corner here. So what I've started doing is I put a little bit of interfacing right inside the seam allowance of the back leg panel, right about here, where the pocket meets the side seam. But not only that, I then go ahead and run a top stitch inside of the seam allowance on the back piece here so that it holds itself in place and just creates a little bit more tension with the back piece here to hold the front in place. And boom, problem solved. So a bar tack is just a fancy word for a tight zigzag stitch. And they're used to help reinforce certain areas that are going to get tension and pull over time. Say, for example, at the bottom where the pocket meets the side seam, putting our hands in over time is going to put tension and stress and undue pulling on this seam here. So just a little bar tack right there to help reinforce that. And voila! we've got ourselves a bar tack. Other areas that you might see something like this is at the top where the waistband connects to the pocket, which if I did have a waistband would be right there. The bottom of the opening by the fly is another good place. I also like to put them on the edges of my welt pockets, anywhere where there's some sort of an opening and it's going to see stress over time. And now it's your turn. Do share. What are the little tips and tricks that you've started implementing that has improved the quality of your pants? I know I'm certainly interested in learning more, and I'm sure others would love to read through the comments as well. So massive thank you if you do share. Ooh, itchy scalp. A massive thank you to these top tier supporters right here on YouTube and over on Patreon. Not only are you supporting me if you sign up over on Patreon, you can now get discounts on courses as well. So, Quality Sewing and LDH Scissors continue to be ongoing supporters of what I'm doing here. So a massive thank you to them. And as a bonus, if you click the links in my description, there's some discounts available too. You're awesome. Thank you for watching till the very end. Bye-bye. And I hope you have a good day. And life is kind to you. And you might want to check out one of these videos.